In The Shadow over Innsmouth, H.P. Lovecraft documents a town full of people who are beset by a sort of curse. They are doomed to become half fish, half man things that serve the god Dagon, or Cthulhu, depending on what canon you particularly subscribe to in the mythos. Now, this is an idea that Lovecraft is often cited as finding after discovering he was part Welsh. I could only imagine what Lovecraft would say should he have known of the existence of Therians. Now, Therians, for those who don't know, are people who experience something called species dysphoria. What is species dysphoria? Well, it is the idea that you are a different species other than human, or a mixture of human and other species. So I decided today we were going to take a look at the r/Therian subreddit and just, kind of see how Lovecraft probably would have felt about this. Just put ourselves in the mind of a man who had some strong beliefs about what makes a man a man. A quick disclaimer before I begin: I am not bullying anybody, but I would like to point out that Therians are not recognized as any sort of psychological disorder according to the DSM that is current to this day. There have been some studies that have shown that people who identify as Therians or other kin tend to fall somewhere on the autism spectrum. So we're gonna go ahead and take a soft hand with these people. The first post I ran across today was called "I Love My Identity." I've been awakened as a Omnitherian for about 2 years, and I don't know, I just love it. And a general connection to nature, so much I need to spew about. I love being myself. I love having this deep, unending connection with nature and animalhood. We are all part of an interlocking ecosystem. We are all made of the same building blocks. Everything is everything else. Everything is me, and I'm everything. I'm the birds, I'm the dogs, I'm the trees, I'm the cats, I'm the grass, I'm the rabbits. I am everything nature has to offer because I am nature. JHDEQUSGS, okay? Okay, I'll stop. I'm chill now. Lie. I'm chill. Lie. Anywho, I don't know. Just really needed to spew about this. Feel free to also spew about your identity. I love hearing about people's therianthropy experiences and how they engage with it. Well, color me interested, because I had no idea what the heck a therianthropy was, but apparently that's what they refer to this state as, and I don't know, a lot of this reads interesting to me, like I am the birds, I am the trees, I am part of nature. Like, yeah, I've done mushrooms too, man. I get it. You kind of felt a deep connection with nature through this process, and I guess that's good, assuming you're not putting it on other people. There's also a little bit of the microcosm is the macrocosm going on here, which, again, it's kind of like early philosophy, like early alchemy. Like, I don't know, did you get this idea from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or something? Because it really feels like you watched a lot of Full Metal Alchemist and, got kind of the concept that they were trying to communicate, about like being part of like a larger machine, a larger ecosystem. There's lots of philosophy written on the concept of, the natural world refers to the greater universe as a whole. There are mirrors between things, like the distance between atoms and planets are the same as far as like scale goes. I've heard theories like this, so maybe that's what they're referring to. Hopefully, that's all this really comes down to. It's a little bit of feeling. It's being in your feelings. Obviously, this doesn't go schizophrenic or anything, right? The next post we have is, "My mask was ripped in half by my older brother. The only Therian mask I had, raccoon mask, was ripped in half by my brother, right in front of my eyes. I spent hours on it. Even if it looked a little goofy, it was my first mask. I still held it dear. I don't know what to do next. I have no motivation to make another. At least I have a tail, but its tip got ripped off." Well, oh no. Oh dear. This is starting to sound more and more like furries, which, I don't have a problem with. The furry community can be kind of wholesome sometimes. We usually only see the worst of the furry community, and that's why, we hear a lot of terrible things about the furry community, but there are some wholesome people in it. But now this is starting to sound like furryism to me. Are you a furry? Is that what's happening? Also, I am sorry that your brother destroyed your stuff. It's never okay to destroy people's property, but could you explain the whole? Why do you need a raccoon mask? Why do you need a tail? What's going on there? Are you acting like a raccoon in real life? Are you like digging through the Papa John's dumpster, eating old pizza crust and throwing away pepperoni, and digging through cans for beans? Like, what do you mean a mask? What do you mean a tail? What is going on here? It's at this point in my journey down this beautiful subreddit that I start to wonder, what would Lovecraft think of this? And Lovecraft would probably use some very not appropriate words to describe this sort of behavior, and I wouldn't agree with those usage of words, but he would definitely call it what he referred to as decadent, which is basically saying this is a person who doesn't have enough problems, and they're doing weird stuff because they don't have enough problems. I'm not a huge fan of Nietzsche's work, but he did have this saying that comes to mind: man is something that shall be overcome. And the idea of the man is something that shall be overcome is that you are to overcome your weaker human traits by ascending beyond them to become his quote-unquote Superman. And this feels like a step in the wrong direction. This feels like you're going backwards, my dude. This feels like you are going back to monkey. And, there's nothing wrong with, that sort of philosophy. Returning to monkey, there's something to be said about that philosophy, but returning to raccoon? I don't know. I like to think we're doing a little bit better than raccoon right now. I mean, things aren't great, but definitely better than raccoon. Is there a Therian who's a Superman? Do we have Superman as a stereotype? Is that a thing I can do? Personally, my stereotype would be an EpiPen, because I would like to save people from peanut allergies. So if I can be a EpiPen stereotype, I would like to be that. Thank you. The next wonderful, beautiful deep dive into this wonderful community that I found is called How Can I Explain Therianthropy to My 10-Year-Old Sister? Pause. You don't. Please don't. Please don't. I don't like where this is going. Please don't do what you're about to do. This better be a wholesome post, or I'm going to absolutely lose my goddamn mind. The post continues. I am a Therian, awakened January 2024, and I'm starting to think my 10-year-old sister might be a Therian. She likes doing quads with me. What are quads? What are quads? Somebody please tell me what quads are. Is that running around on all fours? Is that what you're doing? I don't like that. Okay. But I think she may understand that what Therians really are. She kind of picks her stereotypes, and every day she says she's a different animal. Could someone give me some examples on how I can explain therianthropy and alter humanity to her? Thank you. 3. Well, first off, I'd like to say whenever anyone uses 3, that's a giant red flag for me, especially if you're using it in a public forum like this. Also, dude, she's 10. Like, kids think stupid stuff all the time. That's why they're kids. I mean, adults apparently think stupid stuff all the time, too. But, kids especially think stupid things all the time. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an ant, because then I could lift 50 times my body weight and I'd be super strong, but I never put on a pair of antennas and, some styrofoam arms to make it seem like I was an ant. And I never tried to convince other people that they should also be ants. Even though, now that I'm thinking about it, it would have been cool to create a little cult and call myself the Queen of the Ants and have a bunch of other people who thought they were ants. And I guess I can kind of see how people fall into this now, because it seems like it might become a religion. You could probably turn this into a religion and make $1 million. You got to do an L. Ron Hubbard with this if you're trying to actually get a bag out of it. I think that's the natural evolution of this. When does the Church of the Therian come into being? But of course, this is a subreddit, so we have wonderful, beautiful, unbelievable comments from a very supportive community that will clearly tell us how we can, and let me reiterate, we probably shouldn't, but if we chose to, how we could explain therianthropy and alter humanity to a 10-year-old child. Let's see what these people think is a good idea. There's only one comment here. Let's see what it says. Explain it in the same way you would to anyone else, but simplified using age-appropriate language. Start by asking what she thinks a Therian is. She'll likely give a halfway there answer where you can build off of while affirming that she's partially right. Telling her she's completely wrong will make her feel stupid. For example, she says a Therian is someone who thinks they're an animal. Perhaps she adds something about choosing a stereotype. You can respond with, yeah, that's pretty close. A Therian is someone who feels like an animal on the inside. They don't choose to feel that way. It'd be pretty cool if we could pick whatever animal we wanted to, eh? Sometimes it takes Therians a while to figure out what animal they are, but there's no rush. If she's receptive to it, explain what other link means and ask if she feels like that fits her better. She might just want to be like her older sibling, so she's calling herself a Therian, even if she's not. If that's the case, she'll grow out of it, and there isn't much harm in entertaining the idea until she does.
There isn't much harm in entertaining the idea until she does. Okay, what if I was a 10-year-old kid and I went to my older sibling and I said, I think I'm an arsonist. Would there be any harm in entertaining the idea that I'm an arsonist? You building me little houses out of sticks to burn down and clap and cheer and laugh to? Would you consider that harmful? See, I think you walk a fine line when you start, explaining this to a child as though it's perfectly normal. Like, if it's your own child, do as you please. I can't tell you how to raise your kids. That's kind of just, one of the things you don't do. And even when it comes to, your own sibling, I guess you could. This is a thing you could choose to explain to them, but it costs you absolutely nothing to not explain it to them. Maybe just, enjoy the fact that they're trying to maybe emulate what they see in their older sibling. They're looking up to you. And, try to guide them down a path that is best for them. But I don't know if you need to have a conversation about stereotyping with them. I don't know if that's the best idea. Does anyone else remember the Bandura and Bobo experiments where they had this toy clown where they would show some kids an adult beating up the clown, hitting it with a bat, stabbing it with a knife, and then other kids would not be shown that, and the kids who were shown the violent acts would interact with this toy clown violently, and the kids who were not shown the violent acts perpetrated by an adult, they tended to not get violent with the toy. I remember that experiment. Now, I also remember the experiment at the time was used to kind of show that violent TV was bad for kids. But I think there is something to be said. Children emulate what they see. If they see you chewing on a plastic steak, like a chew toy, they might start doing that, and they're going to get bullied at school. And I think you should probably, protect kids from getting bullied at school. I don't think that's a big ask. The best we could do is try to keep people from being bullied, and I don't think teaching anyone about stereotypes is going to keep them from being bullied. Not everyone has to be the same in the world. It takes a village to build out the world. And yeah, the world needs people who are a bit on the strange side, but I don't think I can co-sign explaining stereotypes to 10-year-olds, especially when you're speaking from a position of power as an older sibling or as a parent. It's going to give them ideas, and I don't know, they might grow up to hate you because you exposed them to something that wasn't necessarily theirs to have, and now they've gone down this road because they look up to you, they respect your advice, and when they hit that teenage rebellion, oh boy, they're going to hate you something fierce if you gave them the wrong advice. Now, the most interesting thing I came across in this dive into the Therian community is something called double shifting. Now, if you don't know, Therians don't have just one stereotype, they have many stereotypes, and they shift, allegedly, between these different stereotypes. So, I'm going to go ahead and read this beautiful, wonderful post. I have a lot of questions about this one. Sometimes I have double shifts, like today, while I was in the tub, I double shifted Phantom Orca tail with harp seal senses. I also had a Kingfisher phantom shift that involved a beak, and a mental shift that led me diving for fish. Honestly, I don't double shift often, but I wonder if other creatures have these shifts. So my first obvious question is, bro, how big is your bathtub? Like, seriously, how are you diving in your bathtub? Do you have like an Olympic-sized pool for a bathtub? Because honestly, I'm jealous. And if the stereotype people are akin to the furries, I guess they have a lot of disposable income. I guess you could have a diving tub for when you have a phantom orca tail and a kingfisher beak and you decide to go looking for fish in the bathtub. Are you putting fish in the bathtub? It seems kind of counterproductive to put fish in your bathtub. You're gonna come out of there smelling pretty fishy. You're gonna smell like soap and fish. I don't know if that's the best smell. And of course, in the comments, you have a couple people just like saying like, yeah, I totally have double shifts too. And I don't know what to make of that. What happens if you have a double shift and like you're a cat and a mouse at the same time? Do you just start attacking yourself, like chase yourself around the room, go nuts, climb up the walls, snort some catnip, eat some cheese, then start chasing yourself again, hit yourself with a skillet like in Tom and Jerry? Like, how does that work? So what have we learned today? What is the takeaway from all of this? Well, I think the takeaway is that Lovecraft was apparently a prophet because he predicted half human, half people hybrids. Now granted, the hybridization only takes place in the mind, but I can only imagine how Lovecraft would have reacted to seeing something like this, because if he had access to Reddit and he could see people talking about animal hybrids, I think it would horrify him. The man was horrified by the concept of air conditioners, let alone people thinking they were half human, half animal hybrids. I think he would probably lose his mind, you know, as he was probably destined to do, because that was the fate of most of his family, to end up in Bedlam. And him seeing this, I don't know, it might have given him a heart attack. Might have grown his colon cancer 2 sizes too big. As far as what this means philosophically, I think it really just indicates even further that we're in the age of decadence. We're in the age of not enough problems. Like, what can I do as an individual to make people just kind of tone it down with all this stuff that's going on in their heads? Like, I don't have a problem with most things, but when you start LARPing like an animal, I have questions. I have concerns. I have legitimately interest in digging around in your head meat. You know, I'd like to put you in an MRI and see what makes that head meat spin, because honestly, I don't know where this comes from. I don't know where this comes from. How do you get like this? I've seen a couple of different articles. Some people refer to it as a coping mechanism, similar to like developing alters with dissociative identity disorder. Not like, you know, people who think they're a plural system, the people who LARP having DID, but actual people who have DID. Maybe these animal personas are like having an alter in DID. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just a little bit of your imagination running away with you. I couldn't say for sure what makes this happen. All I know is that, to me, this is the setup for a Lovecraftian horror story. Imagine a man traveling to a town full of stereotypes, and his 10-year-old daughter is taken in by some of the Therians and gets told about being a Therian, and he takes her back home, and slowly over time she starts morphing into this, you know, half human, half animal hybrid that's eating out of the trash behind the Papa John's, and then you have to, you know, go to Miskatonic University to get a freaking exorcist to take the Therian demon outside of your child. Like, could you imagine how hard the shadow over Innsmouth would have gone if Lovecraft had any concept of what Therians were? Imagine the psychological horror you could create out of this. That's why I refer to this as a Lovecraftian horror, because it defies what most people consider to be logical, to be, I don't want to say normal, but just, I don't know, Applebee's sanctioned behavior. You wouldn't do this in an Applebee's. They'd ask you to politely leave, and if you didn't leave, they'd justifiably call the cops. To me, I knew about otherkin and like furries, which are their own sort of thing, but like that's like, if you've ever read the story of the Other Gods, like the furries and the otherkin, those were like the normal gods that we knew about on Earth. The Therians are like the other gods, the ones that are above the mountain and do not take kindly to you approaching the mountaintop. With all of that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something today. Hopefully it wasn't knowledge that you didn't wish to acquire. Hopefully I haven't caused any brain hurt within you. But, my name is Broken Head Meat, and the reason my head meat is so broken is because when I see something like this, I just can't help but go looking for it. Just like Barzai the Wise, I have to climb the mountain and see the other gods, and today I have seen them, and now I need my rest. If you have any thoughts, comments, or insights into this community, please leave them down below. I always love being proved wrong. If you can think of any other weird communities on Reddit that might have given old writers or old philosophers heart attacks, please go ahead and leave them down in the comments, because I'm always excited to find a new rabbit hole to damage my head meat with. With that being said, Broken Head Meat, signing off.